Look at the weather.
It's beautiful here.
Non-stop rain.
Oh, man, it is a blazer out there.
It's cold and it's shivery.
It is cold.
Really coming down here.
I really enjoy your weather reports.
From the All Indiana Podcast Network, we're talking weather in a whole new way. From historical events to what's coming up, plus weather news, science, safety, fun facts, and more.
I like where this is going.
This is Weather Weekly. Weather Weekly with Wish TV Storm Track 8 meteorologist Marcus Bailey.
All right, welcome here, episode number 3 of Weather Weekly. I am your host, Marcus Bailey. Good to be with you here. We got a fun one. We'll talk about our guest here in a moment. Something I skipped out on last week was talking about where we are in the world of weather. And I like to try to keep up to date on things since this is a weekly podcast on things that happened the last time we talked which would have been Election Day last Tuesday in the world of weather. So we'll get to that here as we gear up for our third episode this week as we speak here. Day of recording is Tuesday, November 10th. We still have Tropical Storm Eta that is churning in the Gulf. We were talking about this storm last week, so this has been around for well over a week now. It made landfall in Central America. Nicaragua specifically is a strong Category 4 storm. Unfortunately, a fatal storm. Came back out to sea, went over Cuba. It ended up making landfall in the Keys, I believe on Monday morning. And that now makes the 12th landfall for a named storm in the continental United States. That is a record. And now waiting in the Gulf could impact any of the Gulf Coast states, really, from Louisiana to Florida, making I guess it would be a 4th landfall here, and a 2nd landfall in the United States later on into the week, heading into the weekend. What's interesting, if you're a golf fan, the Masters will be taking place. Obviously, it was delayed due to COVID. And that will be taking place starting Thursday, 4 rounds. So that will go all the way through Sunday. For those of you that aren't familiar with golf, it is traditionally the first major of the year, played in the spring. But it is in a warmer weather climate, Augusta, Georgia, but they may be dealing with some rain. So we'll have to keep an eye on that one. Also, good, some big news that happened here just this morning during the overnight hours. Theta has now formed in the central Atlantic. It does not look to pose a threat to any landfall right now, but why it's significant, it is now the 29th named storm. That now breaks the all-time record. 2005 was the benchmark there. There were 28 storms. There were 27 named storms, but the National Hurricane Center did some research post-season and found that they should have named a 28th storm. So 28 was the number to break. We are now at 29. So this year has now formally gone down in the Atlantic, specifically, I should stress, as the most active hurricane season on record. Closer to home, here in the Midwest, breaking temperature records left and right for 2 days in a row. Indianapolis has broken the daily temperature record. Both of those were set at 76 degrees, both in 1999. That was on Sunday and Monday. And the record is very much in jeopardy for Tuesday as well at the time of this recording. We've yet to achieve that high yet. We'll keep an eye on that and keep you updated on next week's podcast. But definitely some interesting weather. Back to reality with a cold front that's going to be coming through on Tuesday night. Likely sparks off some severe weather in the Midwest. And it's also sparking some snow and ice for portions of the upper Great Lakes and stretching down in the Central Plains, where there are some areas in Nebraska, Iowa, Minnesota that could see anywhere between 3 to 5 inches of snow. So that colder air is going to be filling back in. So it's a heavy dose of reality as we start rolling into the latter portions of this week. Should give a good plug here before we do talk about this week's guest. Next week, for those of you that are winter weather fans, we will be talking with Mike Ryan. He's the senior meteorologist at the National Weather Service in Indianapolis, and he'll be giving us his rundown on the winter weather season coming up this year. And I'll talk a little bit more about that coming up. But first, we are really excited about our next guest here on Weather Weekly. We do spend a majority of our time talking weather. That's where we want to be. And we will here in this interview, but I think I love featuring local people to Central Indiana for one. But people that are doing really good things, innovative things here in our community. And our next guest is most certainly doing that. So we're going to be talking a little bit about weather, how weather impacts the agriculture or farming community, and some of these innovative things that my guest is really actively taking a lead in directing where the ag community could be going here over the next several years. His name's Jason Mauck from Mauck Family Farms and Constant Canopy. He is my guest next here on Weather Weekly. All right, welcome back to Weather Weekly. On this week's episode, a very good friend, long friend of mine. His name is Jason Mauck. He's a farmer up in Delaware County. He's also got his hands in a lot of things that we're going to spend some time on as we go throughout this session here on the podcast. He's CEO of Constant Canopy. He's involved with Muncie Meats now. Many people in East Central Indiana are very familiar with that company. So we're going to talk about that. But he's also a big weather nut. And I've known this since I've known him in high school when we played golf together. Jason, first off, I want to ask, how's the golf game been this summer?
It's getting a little better. As you know, Indian summer, so I've been mowing my greens every day. I got them pretty slick. I'm kind of pumped about watching the Masters this week.
Right.
And, I like to play the Masters in my own backyard, so I go against Tiger, but I don't know if he'll be relevant this year.
Well, that may be. So on his farm, and Jason and I played high school golf together. This man had and continues to have a pretty well kept full. What would you call it? A par 4?
I call it a Nicola 9, so it's 15 acres with 3 greens.
Oh,
it's
okay.
like a shared golf course deal. There's like 16 tee-off stations.
I love that. So you can mix it up. It's great.
Yeah.
Oh man, that's good. All right. So you've been this is a family run thing. You've grown up in farming your entire life, and now you continue to run things. I guess I should start off with, just because it's relevant. When it was pinned up against harvest season, we got hit with a pretty bad drought this year.
Mm-hmm.
How'd that work out for you? Because a lot of people, we know when we're involved with weather, we've maybe spend more time focusing on the suburbanites and not so much the rural areas, and we don't maybe understand how that all kind of plays a role in your guys' job.
Yeah. So it was abnormally dry. I always do things like on a 10-year thing, and this is probably a 2 out of 10 years as far as dry. It wasn't a drought.
Okay.
And when we have years like that, we just have a lot better crops in the low spots, but we harvest every acre. As you know, the last 10 years, probably 7 of them have been abnormally wet, so we get a lot of droughted out spots. So it was a great year as far as yields. It was easier. We can drive our semis out in the field. We don't have to worry about compaction and all that stuff. So for a farmer, it makes it extremely easier on a year like this.
Okay. Well, that makes sense. I like that you put that in perspective, because, all we know of is that our lawns look crunchy and brown. But yeah, I mean, a lot of it is when you're going out and you're hitting harvest time, you do want those dry days. So here's the other question I have for you, because this all ties in together. And now that we're getting ready to come into a winter season, I know you love doing winter forecasting, and we're gonna jump into kind of the whole, it's a La Nina year and that kind of stuff. How big a role does winter play in terms of snowfall? Because people don't necessarily think of that. They're not seeing the corn and the beans that are up like that. But how vital is that kind of precipitation in the winter for you guys?
Not too much.
Is it really?
It's always going to be wet
Right.
in March and April. If it's not, then we're saying, oh crap.
Okay.
Because we're not going to have enough moisture as the crops really start needing that.
Mm-hmm.
So the snow is nice because it will slowly absorb into the soil, so you get more efficient precipitation than that 2-inch rain in 20 minutes. So you're
Right.
you don't get the runoff and the erosion and all that kind of stuff, which the Constant Canopy piece kind of tries to manage any moisture we get at any point to kind of help it over the course of the whole landscape. But I love winter storms so much that I wanted to create a job where I was that Lieutenant Dan that could be on top of the sailboat. You call this a storm. So ever since I was 20, at the landscape business, I've held on to the snow removal piece, and I've got about 15 places I take care of, just literally so I don't sleep through snowstorms. I've seen every snowflake fall.
That's
My
great.
whole life, pretty much.
Although it's been kind of, there's been a couple of hits there, but really
It's been
since that
boring.
really bad winter, well, that's been almost running.
14?
Yeah, 6 years ago.
Yeah.
It hasn't been super active. So
Yeah.
yeah, it's been weird. Here's a question, and a lot of these questions, Jason, are questions that I personally, just as a forecaster, I'm interested in because, we're trying to reach all audiences. And again, it goes back to, in the newsroom, we are trained to cater our forecast to the suburban mom, right?
Yeah. Yeah.
But, obviously we cover such a vast area. And I guess the first understanding that I want to have, and I know there's probably not a lot, you are at the mercy of the weather, but are there adjustments that you guys have to make in any given year because of what Mother Nature's throwing at you?
Oh, tremendously. And people ask me all the time, when are you going to start planting corn?
Mm-hmm.
It's not like we just look at a calendar, like when you spun a globe when you're little, I'm going to live here. It's just completely down to windows. And, the normal year, there's 4 days where you can plant corn, and I'm drinking Mountain Dew and eating like sugar, 5-hour energies.
Right.
And it's just like, that's Mother Nature is your boss in all this. So we're completely, that guides us.
What do you think when you look at forecasters, and that it could be TV, it could be National Weather Service, and any of the really forecasting community? And I think you are probably more well equipped to answer this because you have a very deep knowledge of meteorology.
Mm-hmm.
What can forecasters do better to cater to the ag community?
Well, it's kind of like what I do in the ag community, trying to innovate. You can, like you said, you're trying to conform to the soccer mom, and it's what I don't like seeing is people like, oh, weather forecasters, I wish I could have a job where I'm wrong all the time and still get paid.
Right.
But I wish you could be able to articulate that, okay, this system's coming in. Some of you will get 2 inches of rain. Some of you will get nothing. Some of you will get 2/10, and it's going to look something like this.
Mm-hmm.
And I think it's really hard to say that you have a 50% chance of rain and people get that point. And when you're become this student of nature and you see how things play out, you see how localized things are, I think the general public doesn't understand that it's impossible for you to make everyone happy.
Right.
Literally impossible. So I think that will continue on, but I'm looking for someone to kind of innovate that space to be able to explain. I don't know if it's a picture, because you do that with your future cast, but it's more of this broad brush, like precipitable water table. It's not, doesn't show the localization of things. That's where you guys struggle.
Yes.
And especially when you get a winter storm, 50 miles, just that low pressure changing the course can be the difference between 55 in rain and heavy snow in 29. And it's hard to say, because that will shift 50 miles sometimes in 24 hours.
Easily.
It does all the
Yep.
time.
Yep.
It goes north and west, and we get wet, and then you're now, you cried wolf.
That's right.
So it's a challenge.
It is.
So
yeah.
you have to constantly be hedging,
Mhm.
which makes you in a bad position because you know that it could be a big deal or it could be no deal.
Right.
And then what you are forced to do is say 2 to 4 inches when it could be 6 to 10 or rain.
Yes.
Yeah.
Which is basically you're going through my nightmare scenario every winter, basically. Like I'm already sweating right now just thinking about it. Well, and here's the other problem, and you may agree with this or disagree, and that's okay. I mean, I wish I could have you out there as an advocate when we're trying to do that, because, like you said, it's not like I'm jumping on there and just putting a zoomed in map of Delaware County. I've got 50 counties out there that I've got to forecast. And in fact, now, our owner is expanding. So basically now we have the entire state that we have to cover.
Yeah.
And so what does that mean in winter weather when we start having to worry about lake effect snow up in, South Bend and all that other stuff? I think a lot of the problem is, and I've listened to other meteorologists, and just like with social media, a lot of people don't, and it's funny because our whole profession is based on maps, and there's a lot of people that can't pick out exactly where their house is on a map. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
And
so
so
much for Wiley County, and it's like
right.
2 to 4 is painted.
Right.
They don't know where their county is.
Right.
Apparently. I don't. Yeah.
Right. And so that's the big thing. There's a lot of, social studies I know that are going into how the weather community presents weather. And it goes beyond the winter weather forecasting. And a lot of it was spawned from tornado outbreaks, because how can you help people to take shelter if they don't know what county they live in? Because these are all based on counties. I've always made the argument, and one of my favorite follows, and I'm sure you being a weather nerd and you're very active on social media, one of my favorite follows is James Spann, because I think he does probably about as good as anybody can do in the television business. And here's why. He, and you'll get the reference here in a second, but he knows literally every inch of his viewing area. Like if there's a Bob's Road out there, you and I have made the joke when we're riding to golf practice that it's just like a road in the middle of nowhere, but he knows it. And he knows what's on the corner of Bob's Road and some other gravel road. And he's like, look, there's a big red barn there. And people don't know road names. I probably couldn't tell you what's 3 streets down in my neighborhood, but I do know where the McDonald's is at. I know where the gas station is. And I think that's, you have to be able to bring it down to that level, because we as humans are, like you said, it's when it comes to, not knowing where we're at, we do know exactly what's around us. And so you have to, and especially in a world where we are dominated with push alerts and social media, and we have the attention span of a cat. Sometimes you just have to make it simpler, but that's just kind of my thinking.
Yeah. And you got that attention span of a cat. That's the biggest problem. If you follow someone like Seth Godin, the purple cow,
right?
We're just all sensationalists on social media. So
yes,
a lot of your success is going to be on how sensational your post can be,
yes,
where you're sitting back trying to be cautious. And so it's a plethora of different meteorologists that are their success is tactically completely different on how they come about it. So it's like you guys are in cat fights all the time.
Well, and that's the thing. And I don't know if there is a right or wrong answer, because all of us are going to think that we're right. And obviously it's much more prevalent in winter weather, but it goes to what you just said. People, and it's not just non-TV Mets. I see TV Mets do it plenty. That will post, a snow accumulation map that's 240 hours out. And again, referencing James Spann, but I'm in total agreement. And we learned this in basic meteorology when I was at Ball State. Anything really past 5 days is a crapshoot.
Yeah.
The 7-day forecast was created because of TV. And the reason why it was created is because it always kept the weekend in view. Everybody wants to know what's going to happen that next weekend, right?
And they can promote something
Right.
that weekend.
That's right. I mean, people are always looking forward to the weekend, whether they can go outside or can I get the lawn cut or can I go golf or, whatever.
Yeah.
But realistically, even as good as the science continues to get, 5 days is where you feel pretty comfortable about it. Anything beyond that is a crapshoot. And that's where I think, at least that's my problem when you post something that goes much farther out than that, is there's no real data sampling. You're basically just throwing it out there and saying this one model is saying this. And this.
So I guess where we're at is we're saying the same thing, that you're trying to educate a public that they're interested in it, but they have no base. They don't know what their county looks like.
Right.
I would find it interesting to have a segment once or twice a week that educates the public on how weather works a little bit. Like in severe weather, there's a lot of times where it can be murky in the morning and it completely shoots off, the potential of, and people will look at me like I'm some lunatic when I'm at the coffee shop. I'm like, if the sun comes out from 1 to 4 and it hits, say, 87 degrees,
right,
watch out, it's going to be bad. And a lot of people think, like, if it's cloudy, then, oh no, it's coming.
Right.
And there's just a lot of things I think you could do to explain when something that's dangerous is coming, or a weather storm, like, okay, this 8-legged octopus is coming our way.
Right.
But if it moves this way, this is what's going to happen. I guess one thing, there's a few meteorologists locally that tell the forecast, like, almost, sorry to bring politics in there, they act like they're almost like Donald Trump, like this is the way that it is.
Right.
And it should be more like these are the scenarios.
Correct. I think that's yes. And
go on any way you want from there.
Well, and I 100% agree with you. And I think a big problem with that is, one, the weather community in general is too competitive.
Yes.
Because we work in a news station, we feel like we have to follow the rules of news. And sometimes that means you've got breaking news, you've got a big story, you need to be first. And we spend maybe too much time. We want to throw a snowfall forecast out, and because we wanted to get it out on social media first. Because
let me ask you a quick question.
Yeah.
Is there like an algorithm you guys go by to be the first one that starts the weather, even though you guys share that same segment from like 5:16 to 5:19?
Yes.
There any push to be on there first, so you stick there
Well,
to that first commercial?
Partially not. This is getting a little inside baseball, but since you asked, so majority of your news, specifically in the morning. Okay, morning and evening is a little bit different, but there's still some similarities. Morning, you're always going to start off with a short weather. The reason why is the majority of people are waking up and they want to know what the forecast is going to be. That's the first thing they want. You got the forecast, they want the lead stories. So that's what you base, in traffic, if you're in a big enough city. Those are like the hard-hitting things that get repeated on kind of a clock, okay? The other is, and it kind of goes to the ratings period. Okay. So ratings, and I'm sure I'm not going to be 100% accurate on this because I don't get too involved with this, but just going back to some of my TCOM classes and hearing news directors over the years, you basically want the weather, because the weather still is one of the most popular segments in a newscast, whether it's quiet or not. Everybody wants to know what the weather's going to be. So that's why you don't put it at the very beginning, because you don't want people to just turn the TV off because like, oh, okay, I got my forecast. I don't need anything else.
So you're the milk. We have to walk to the back of the store to
right.
get you.
Exactly. That's a perfect analogy. And then the other thing is there is some science behind it in terms of how ratings work because it's broken into segments basically. So your weather segment, you want your weather segment to overlap, say, segment 2 and segment 3. So you're getting credit for viewers watching both of those segments. Does that make sense?
Yeah.
Okay. So that's why they move it a little bit later. And that's why you don't see a lot of stations veer from that and try to be first on that, because it's important to end up hitting both of those cycles there, essentially.
Gotcha.
So it's usually around 17, 18 after the hour. And from what I've remember, I think they want you to make sure you hit your extended, whether it's a 7-day or an 8-day forecast, in our case, 8-day. They want you to hit that at like 21 after the hour. That way you get credit, because that's the most important part of your forecast, essentially, on a daily basis. So that's the answer to that question.
So while we're at talking inside baseball, that's what I'm here for.
Yeah.
Could we steer that towards ag a little bit?
Please,
when you're
yes.
talking about how weather is important to the farmer.
Yes.
And I make this statement, and people think I'm crazy, but I think you can do something about the weather with how you manage your land.
Okay.
And I'll kind of get into a segue here with Constant Canopy and what that is. When I was a big, I've always been a big weather dork. And what I noticed when I came back to farming in 2010 was that we were getting abnormally wet springs year after year after year. And our crops were literally getting screwed up before they would ever get going because they just couldn't breathe.
Right.
You're getting all these springs now where you're getting 7, 8, 9, 10 inches of precipitation. And it seems like the atmosphere works where if it's wet, it gets wetter. If a bird farts, it rains.
Right.
And if it's dry, it gets dry. And we get in these patterns. So that's kind of where that was kind of my why on why I started doing things. So I started growing multiple crops at once, where I would grow wheat in these wide rows. And then I would look at everything as a finite mathematics equation. And what happens is you have all these crops that are some are summer annuals, meaning that's why you have to do the frost and freeze watches. It'll kill your summer annuals,
right?
Your flowers. Where some are winter annuals, where it can be cold and they're fine. They're hardy. The sun comes back out and they'll grow. So I call it forward progress, because we use plants that can grow when it's might be 80 like it is today or yesterday, and then it might get 10, and they can still grow in between there.
Mm-hmm.
So I started growing my summer annuals right next to my winter annuals at the same time. And what I could find out is if I could grow the winter annual at a certain yield level, then I could work my mathematics backwards, and I would need less seed, less fertilizer to grow that crop, but absorb so much moisture out of the soil profile. So if we would get 8 or 10 inches of rain, then the summer annual wouldn't choke. It could live in the roots, and it would have a consumer next to the other consumer and all this stuff. So that started my whole sane asylum on that. And I wouldn't be doing what I would do in ag, and even with the Muncie meats, my vision there, if I wasn't extremely interested in weather and feel like we can do something about it.
That's a lot. Like it's fascinating, but I'm just sitting here trying to comprehend. I know you know a lot about weather, but it's a lot more than that. And I know you grew up around ag, but that's just something you just kind of sat around and deeply thought about.
Yes. And very heavy experimentation.
Okay.
I'm not a type A person. I'm a psychotic type B. So I do like 50 different things. And I call it the peanut gallery. The local people that judge just think I'm a wreck, but it's like how I learn. So you start doing that, and then you get a feel for the patterns and the nuances. And that's what weather's all about. And I think that's why I became really addicted to it at a younger age. When the internet came out, I could look at the GFS and the NAM, and what happens in your mind is you're predicting things and you're seeing the outcomes, and you're constantly doing that, and it becomes addictive. And the same thing when you start experimenting with agriculture or even marketing and all that kind of stuff. You're in this constant pattern of experimentation, outcome, adjust, experiment, outcome. And it's addictive.
Jason Mauck is our guest right here with Mauck Farms, CEO of Constant Canopy. And hey, Jason, I got a question here when it pertains to Constant Canopy, because I follow you on social media on the Twitters. And I see some people, like, I feel bad sometimes because, you know, I get grief all the time because I'm on TV and they want to make fun of the bald guy. But I see that you put a lot of your stuff out. And I guess since you and I went to the same school, a very rural community, you know, I guess what farmers sometimes be known as stuck in their ways, and you get some grief sometimes, right?
Yeah.
But now you've been doing this, you said 2010 is when so 10 years, right?
Yeah.
That you've been kind of doing this. How's the perception been going as the years have gone on?
Well, I think Gary Player, when he won the 64 Masters or something like that, maybe that was Jack 63, something like that. He said he you know, I found the harder you work, the luckier you get. So you just it's all about persistence, and eventually the people that give you the criticism are maybe sometimes the ones that convert to be your best cheerleaders, if you will. So it's just it's constantly with what I'm doing is just the confidence through experimentation that things are going to work out like you think, and it doesn't really matter
right
at the end of the day.
That's good. That's a good motto for anybody. First of all, social media is a horrible place to be, especially now. But
especially if you're a very fragile esteemed individual.
Yes, you have to have a thick skin. And it's funny, I was just having that conversation with somebody in the newsroom, and it's like, look, we've been told, because you are in the public, you got to have a thick skin to work in news. But you know what? There's so many people now that just put themselves out there, like yourself, on social media. You're doing something new. You're doing something different. But you got to have a thick skin, because you're going to get it from all sorts of different directions. Especially on social media, where people can kind of be more anonymous, and it's easy to just judge and not say it to someone's face. All right,
And the reality is, if I can add this one bit,
you
know, the 60s, 70s, and 80s, whatever, you know, the economy worked around average products for average people. You had Disney and Coke and all these brands, and you just there was more success in conforming. And now you look at beer sales, and what the number one seller is other.
Right.
It's not Miller Lite or Budweiser anymore. Right. So it does take thick skin to, you know, put yourself out there and innovate and do things. But that's unfortunately, that's the only way to be successful anymore, or you're just going to be absorbed and you can't compete with the norm. You're just going to be absorbed in the ebbs and flows. And there's a lot of industries that are, you know, there's not really a great word for it, but it's like a lot of things are getting so socialistic, where you just either are a cog in the system or you kind of go on your own way.
Right. And you have to stand out, you know, and you're seeing that a lot now. What's going to make you different than, like you said, just anybody else in the system? So, I think this would be a good kind of segue here too. You just recently acquired Muncie Meats, which is, if I remember correctly, this dates back to the 1950s, I think, as a company. Yep. Is that correct?
Yep, 1957.
Pretty well known, not just in Muncie, but really a lot of East Central Indiana. So first, I guess, you know, not that you weren't already busy enough, but here you go. You pick up another thing. How'd that come about? And, you know, what are you doing now? And I guess the last question is, what's your vision with Muncie Meats? Because I've followed you on social media. You're already doing some pretty neat things with it.
Yeah. So short answer was, when COVID struck, I noticed that the shelves in the grocery stores were empty.
Right.
Prices were jacked up 4 or 5x. And the farmers' prices were the lowest ever. So you could see it blatantly right in front of you play out that COVID exposed the problem in agriculture, and that is that all the middle guys have just all conformed into one giant mega food corporation. And it's a struggle. And there's a lot of farmers like myself trying to do different things. So we called around, and Muncie Meats is kind of this last man standing that is a federally inspected USDA facility that isn't super large. So we called around. The guy said, I want out. Love for you guys to take it over. So we got it, and we have to completely change its legacy brand. So what it did when we acquired it was service over 100 restaurants with portion controlled meat. And we're using all the facility to grow that legacy brand, but also empower the farmer. So to be best way to explain it, it was a means for an end to me. When you go back to mathematics, you can talk about finite mathematics, and then you can talk about derivatives. And if you drive around, the corn and soybeans that you drive by when you go to Illinois or any state all go into feeding an animal.
Mm-hmm.
Why can't the farmer sell the animal? So what we've done is we are collaborating with a lot of people, and we're creating a completely new way for the animal to get direct to the consumer. So we're creating it's called a mobile harvesting facility that will go to animals in the field that are I won't say frolicking, but
Right.
we can use technology to put grass and cover crops and crops out in the field and move the animals daily. And that's what I did this summer. And when you look at the patterns of nature, plants have this adolescent growth stage where they're in rapid growth for about 30 days. And if you can manage plants with animals and you add the sunlight and warmth, you can get a 3 to 5x biomass out of that soil, so you can get more growth out of the animals, and then you can create organic matter, which a lot of scientists believe is the key to backing up climate change if you want to go down that road. But if we can get more carbon in the soil, that's going to solve a lot of problems. So I want to scale that. And even if I go down swinging, that's what I'm going to try to do in the next 20 years.
That's fascinating. That really, I mean, that is combining that all together. I mean, in this, to put it simply too, and I think you posted this too. I mean, this is legit 100% farm to table, basically, the way you're kind of providing this too.
Yes. So to add on to that, I want this one thought to go out there: supply meets demand. Just change meets to MEATS.
Yeah.
So we want to mobilely go out and harvest the animals in the field, but we also want to move animals from field to field. So we're creating a tender, if you will, for people that have land and cover crops and people who have animals. So we want to have the people that move animals optimize the biomass in the field, and then we want to go to there. So we want to go out, harvest the animals, bring them back to Muncie Meats. We just were awarded a federal grant and a grant from the city of Muncie to invest a substantial amount into Muncie Meats. And what we're going to do is bring those animals in here, cut and pack, and then label it specifically back to the farmer. So we'll have a parent brand called Grateful Graze,
Mm-hmm.
and then also be able to private label back to the farmer so they can go back to their community and sell to their friends and community, to the local gas station, and basically break this chain that just has animals, thousands of them in one building, going to this mega facility, going to these mega stores. We're going to make it personal.
That's great. Okay, so I see. Literally, this is going out to just a lot of your, I mean, almost like on a scale of like a farmer's market type of thing. But I mean, this is a small scale to get it out to the little guys.
Yeah. But what this allows us to do is become kind of a mentor for them to create entrepreneurs instead of this cog in a wheel, but also get scale around it. So we can go to someone like Timberland Boots and say, we've got 5,000 hides that were regeneratively raised.
Mm-hmm.
And these are the outcomes that this system has created. We're creating 0.5% organic matter over 2 years, which if we could do that over 1 million acres, then this would have this fantastic outcome that would actually make a dent in our weather patterns. Because if everyone in the state of Illinois puts all their soil and turns it over in the winter and then you have nothing growing, you're going to have water pollution. You're going to have everything pushes the needle towards desertification. And it's how a lot of civilizations have went down. I don't want to turn this into bad things, but we've been completely infatuated with production, and we're realizing that technology is kind of outrunning the headlights here. We can feed plants, but there's only so much fertilizer or soil can take in before it runs off their water supplies. And we're really the beautiful and the scary thing is farmers, the same people that could destroy our environment, are the same people that can help us.
So you think that's where, and I'm totally open to the discussion because it's a weather, and I'm fascinated when you're tying in the climate change with all of this, and I do want to get more of your thoughts, because I guess on a big scale, ag doesn't probably get as much play when it comes to that discussion as many other industries, right?
It gets a lot of the negative publicity.
Right. But I think what you're saying is how you can flip the switch, and it should be getting more of the positive publicity for what things like you're trying to do, basically.
Yes, and it kind of goes back to that weather forecast for the soccer mom. You get someone like AOC or something get in office and say cow farts are the devil. Foosball's the devil,
right.
Bobby. And
I love the Waterboy reference. It's great.
Animals could be the key. You've got to, it's just about anything in nature or in general can be either positive or negative. So we're trying to change the narrative, and that's where you have to have the thick skin to do things and follow up and just take it on, because what's happening is ag is trying to create as many cogs as possible, so they go out in the real world and buy inputs and prop up bigger ag companies. They want to sell that that fertilizer, that chemical, and just keep the ag industry afloat. When you're kind of a smart ass at math, you can say, when you look at things as a derivative, it doesn't matter if I spray a weed and kill it, or I just put a wheat plant there. Both of them will control my weeds in that time and space. So you might as well replace all of these bought inputs with natural systems. And there's this kind of like underground world that's starting to grow now. If you've seen the Netflix Kiss the Ground, there's this group of farmers that are trying to just farm completely differently, and it's extremely disruptive to the whole ag industry.
Do you think that's the way that the ag industry is going to have to go? Basically, like the days of what your folks did, what you learned as a young boy, like that's going to be, or even what's been maybe going on over the last 10 years is going to be obsolete soon?
I don't think anything will be obsolete. The best analogy is a funnel.
Okay.
So one direction is going to be a funnel upside down, and one is going to be right side up. So your right side up is going to conglomerate 10 farms into one that's going to be 50,000 acres. And then it's all going to be automated with big tractors and doing the whole grain thing and feeding that model. The other is the upside down, which takes now, instead of one person managing 1,000 acres, now you have 10 or 20, 30, 40 people managing 100 acres. So now you've got, like I did this summer, where you've got chickens going in between the rows, and we've got farm markets, and we've got now, what bothers me the most is Mauck Family Farms has now boiled down to where, one or two people are managing a 3,500 acre farm, where I've got cousins, I've got nieces and nephews. If I would create a whole different system, then every one of them could be involved in the farm. Their friends could be involved in the farm. And there's no reason why this 3,500 acres should be managed by a couple people. It could be 30 people. And there's companies like Seven Sons north of Fort Wayne that have done this model. Now Seven Sons barely made it with 1,500 acres 15 years ago,
Uh-huh.
and now they have 60 families that they support.
No
And they distribute
kidding.
their products. Yeah, Chicago, Detroit, Columbus, Ohio, Indianapolis. All these cities are getting high-quality regenerative raised product.
That's some, I guess, and it is on a different scale, but you talk about getting all those families and you say you've got, your cousins and nieces and all that other stuff.
Mm-hmm.
Isn't that kind of, and I mean, correct me if I'm wrong, I guess everybody's different, but wasn't that kind of how it was way back in the day, that it was a whole family thing, basically?
Oh, yeah. It came down to labor. I mean, that's why people had like 15 kids. Like the Duggars weren't weird 15,
Right.
150 years ago. That was normal. They were counting kids after 19. But yeah, I'm out here outside the Innovation Connector, and I'm watching J. Crew, shovel up some leaves right now, and that's why now the average age of farmers went from 35 to 65 in the last 50 years. Is it's no longer labor. It's more capital. So there's big barriers to entry. And the farmers, like my grandpa's 86, he's driving a tractor today. That's what they love to do. They're able to do that.
Sure.
As soon as they can't get up there, they'll build like a ramp or something so they get up there.
Right.
And it's just where we're at. So you get some people involved that say, hey, I actually want to put some labor and thought into this. And maybe if we move these animals here and put these crops out here and grow multiple crops here, we can be more efficient. So what's happening right now is the government subsidizes regular agriculture pretty heavily to keep them solvent.
Okay.
And if you can manage things differently, you got to go against those subsidies because you no longer qualify for that program. So that's what's really a slippery slope here, is when you really start propping up industry, you really hurt innovation. And it's kind of dangerous on how we compete globally in the industry.
Interesting stuff. Just Jason Mauck. He's with Mauck Family Farms, CEO of Constant Canopy. He's also with Muncie Meats. And just, wealth. And he's also a weather nerd, and that's why we have him here on this Weather Weekly podcast here. But Jason, thank you for spending some time with me here today. I find, one, I'm biased. I've known you since high school. You were always like one of the smarter kids in school. It's so cool to see, and I loved how you just broke it all down. Just the innovation that you're doing with Constant Canopy. I relate it to you're trying to teach me today, like what you were trying to teach me at Lakeview Golf Course, which I understand doesn't exist anymore up in Eaton. You were trying to teach me how to do the Phil Mickelson flop shot, which I have to admit I tried to do yesterday successfully once, and then I scorched the second one. But but no, you've always been a good. I knew from that moment, one, that you were just incredibly smart and gifted in just doing all of this with the innovation that you're doing. Not just with the Constant Canopy, which I found fascinating when you post. I love your, if people don't know, he's on Twitter. You post videos like daily of just you out in the field, right? Yeah. Check him out because you can learn a lot just about farming in general. Even if you don't have that big of an interest in farming, it's fascinating to listen to Jason kind of break all of this down. But I didn't know a lot about the whole Muncie Meats deal other than that you just acquired it. And I noticed that you were putting up some things was it like these little lockers almost or something where people can go and get it was like refrigerated things that are outdoors?
So I'm glad you gave me the opportunity to plug that in. So
Yeah.
It's called an Automated Farmers Market.
Okay.
And we just poured the concrete right outside Meyer yesterday, and it should be in December 14th there at Benson Motorcycles.
Okay.
And what we're wanting to do there is, A, with COVID, and then B, people's time is the most valuable. That's why you have things like Uber really take off.
Right.
So we're selling the 15-second experience. So what we'll be doing is attracting several farmers to have their product at Muncie Meats. We've got a cold storage and technology to keep it all organized. And then they can get on an app and order let's say you order 5 hamburgers, 5 steaks, a dozen eggs, and then we fill the locker. They get a confirmation code, and here's where the magic happens. So if you're my wife and you've got a 4 and a 6-year-old, and the 4-year-old's got a burger hanging out of his nose, and and you don't have to go to the back of the supermarket, walk to the back and get that milk like we talked about,
Right.
and check out. And that's, a lot of people will live out in the country around here. It might be a 30-minute experience. It might be an hour and a half.
Sure.
But what this will allow you to do, if you've been in the Little Caesars Pizza, they've got a QR code. So you'll put your phone up to the kiosk, and it'll unlock your pizza. So in the times of COVID, you'll have a QR code on your phone. You'll go up to the interface of the AFM machine. It'll unlock your locker. All your product will be in a box. It's unlocked. You put it back in your car. You never have to get the kids out. You can pull right up to it. We'll have it in spots where you can pull right up to it, get out, and you'll be back in your car in 15 seconds with a plethora of different local goods. So we're going to put that there. Meyer at first. We're working on getting several locations down in Indianapolis, and I'm assuming that a lot of your Krogers and Payless and all those people will create systems similar to this.
Right.
Once they do, then we may keep those, but we'll probably repurpose these same machines to go in places like Monument Circle, downtown, where people really appreciate the regenerative food, the grass-fed,
Right.
and that kind of stuff. And we want to bring this all over the Midwest.
That's fascinating. And so let me get this. So are you going to, do people actually rent out those specific lockers, or are you going to have like specific items in those lockers for people that they can get it? I guess what I'm trying to understand.
That's what's great about COVID is that people have become accustomed for forethought. So they have to pre-order.
Okay.
So there'll be an app, there'll be a store, and then they just tell us what to put in their locker.
Okay.
So they'll pre-order, we'll fill up the locker, and then they can get in and out in no time.
Wow.
So what we'll be doing is people can do that on a one-time thing, but we want to get people to be on a weekly or monthly
Sure.
subscription. So we'll get accustomed to their schedule. So maybe you'll pick it up from 10 to noon. And as we get more and more traffic, we want to turn that locker from 24 hours to 12 and hopefully 6. So now we can have hundreds of transactions with those 20 lockers in the course of the day or a month.
What a great idea. That's fascinating. And you know what? And I love that because you mentioned it, innovation. I think you've mentioned numerous times, and how this year specifically has changed so much, that you were able to come up with that idea specifically because of COVID. But I think that's going to be something that's sustainable for a long time.
Yeah, I think there's going to be all kinds of industry that'll, it's modular in design. It's just going to be completely renting that time and space. Let's say you're like a flower shop and you're closed at 4, but a lot of people get off work and you want to own that one locker to get the after hours and have a big bouquet for someone or something like that. There's going to be all kinds of systems like this that are not quite the brick and mortar, but not quite the delivery to your door, because you're seeing the price of that delivery to your door really ratchet up as Amazon is now buying their own FedEx.
Right.
And the cost of shipping is getting higher and higher. There's
Right.
going to be some middle deal there.
Well, and face it too, on just simple purpose, like you said. I mean, it's not just the mom that has the kid with the booger hanging out of his face.
Yeah.
We're getting to a point in society, and this year certainly is COVID related, but I think it's been kind of a trend where it's a hassle to go out to some of these places. People just want to do their thing on their own. You know what I mean? It's like, that's why you have Amazons that are taking off, because they can get it delivered to their house. People don't want to go into a store with hundreds of people and you're fighting over Christmas gifts or groceries or whatever else.
Mm-hmm. And I think it's going to create a tremendous opportunity for ag to there's going to be a lot of people that got tired of staring at a wall all summer with all these restrictions, that are affluent, they make money, but they're like, let's move out to the country because now we have Amazon and now we have
Right.
this. So there's going to be these new pressures put on ag that you can't just, put 10,000 pigs in a spot and make 2 miles smell like pig poop. You've got to have, something that's more friendly because they're moving out. But at the same time, if you could create something to fulfill their needs and the products fulfill their needs, that's a new thing that you just need to create. So I'm excited about the next, the future of everything. So.
Yeah. I mean, it's fascinating. I learned a ton. I didn't know hardly anything about farming anyway, except for from you and some of our other classmates, because there's a lot of farmers at our school. But I mean, it was the generics. It was the basics, right? Or anything that I learned at the state fair. That's about it. It's just fascinating, the science that goes into, what you guys do on a daily basis, but more so of what you're looking ahead into doing. That's a lot. Made my brain hurt. I'm very thankful that there's not a final exam at the end of this. I would not do well. You were talking a lot of the math and stuff. Yeah.
Who were you that day? Were you Rob Robbins when you hit like 5 3-pointers in a row and made everyone
run their
yes ass off?
I am so glad you brought that up too. Now I'm really happy about that. So, let's see. That would have been what, your senior year of high school?
I think you were a sophomore and you just could not miss. You could
nope. So we were playing, I guess I haven't mentioned it. Yeah, I haven't mentioned it. Jason and I went to Westell High School. It's in northwestern Delaware County. That year, Delta High School was coming off a state title run, the last year for single class basketball in the state of Indiana. They got runner-up. They came back as the overwhelming number one favorite in this new class system. I think they were like 2A at that point. We were single A. They had some really good ball players, several that went to play for Ball State basketball. Yep. One of them was Rob Robbins, who could shoot the lights out. And he not only did, he was encouraged to shoot basically anywhere in the gym. So
pretty fun guy to emulate on the scout team.
Yeah, so here we are on the scout team. Jason is on the varsity. I'm on JV. So obviously we're playing roles as a scout team, and Scott Hudson was our coach back then, and he was just waiting for someone to kind of start heating up. He noticed that I hit a couple of threes. No one was coming out to guard me. And so he goes, Bailey is Rob Robbins. So from now on, I'm Rob Robbins. And so basically all the coaches are, I don't care if there's 5 guys running at you, you shoot the ball. I don't care if you're at half court, you shoot the ball. So that was my role. I wasn't allowed to pass. I wasn't allowed to dribble. It was someone passes it to me and I immediately throw it up. So what happened was, I'm glad you mentioned this because there's not very many people that'll bring this up. There's no video of it, but it was the greatest moment in basketball for me ever. That they keep throwing the ball to me. I just throw it up and everything's going in. To the point where Coach Hudson goes, if Bailey hits one more 3, you're all running.
Forever.
So here we go. Coach Hudson's behind me. They throw me the ball. I shoot it, and I think I had you maybe tackle me. I had Seth Ernstberger, who was like 6'4". I'm a 5'8" guy. He's like,
all his fingers up.
Yeah, he's jumping as high as possible. And I just shot it up to the rafters, and it goes in immediately on the line. But that wasn't it. It didn't just stop there. You guys ran, and you're cussing me up and down. We come back. Our JV coach goes, do it again. So this time, like the entire team screens for me. So I had at least a little more of an opening, but people are grabbing my jersey. People are coming at my legs. I throw it up. It goes back in. On the line. And we're just laughing hysterically. This had to have gone on. It seemed like forever, probably longer for you. But, oh man, the best moment of probably my sports life right there. Like some people remember they want a game-winning touchdown. They hit the last-second shot to beat an arch rival. They got a home run. Mine was I nailed like 7 3-pointers in a row against the varsity team.
Oh, so good. I had blisters the next day, probably all week.
Oh man, you guys are
Did
all
you see
mad at
my
me.
tweet about Cubic talking about the 5 chairs and the wind gauge
I didn't.
last week?
No, I
Oh,
missed
yeah.
that.
Well, it was kind of wrapping up the election.
I have to check it out. I have to check it out.
Yeah. I said I put 5 chairs out there. Number 22's got a effing wind gauge. And I remember laughing.
Yeah.
And then running.
Yeah.
He was hilarious when he was mad.
That's the thing, and that could be a whole different podcast about how things are different sports wise. There's a lot of things that probably wouldn't fly anymore that we witnessed when we were kids. But boy, were they funny. They were good. They were good. Yep. All right, Jason. I haven't even asked you this, but I think it's important because I've mentioned it several times. Social media, where can people reach you?
Jason Mauck 1. That's Jason Mauck 1.
That's on the Twitter machine.
That's
yes?
on the Twitter.
Okay. Jason Mauck 1. And if people are a little more curious about your stuff, you got an email. I know you've got a website. It's constantcanopy.com. Is that correct?
Yep, ConstantCanopy.com. And follow us on Muncie Meats. That's MUNSEE Meats. Download the app and start working this automated farmers market.
Love
for it. At Meyer and Muncie at beginning, or they're at Benston's actually, and then move down there your way in Indianapolis.
Beautiful. Love it. All right, Jason, thanks, buddy. It's good to hear from you. I'm so glad and happy for all the success and the great stuff that you're doing, not just there in Muncie, but really now kind of going all over central Indiana. So keep up the good work, man, and keep us updated too.
All right. Awesome.
All right, we'll be right back. All right, welcome back. My thanks to Jason Mauck of Mauck Family Farms and Constant Canopy and Muncie Meats. Make sure you follow him on social media. Follow Muncie Meats as well for all the great things that they have coming down the line. Greatly appreciate Jason's time, and I just wish him the best of luck and all of the great things that he's got coming out of there up in Delaware County. And you can expect big things from him. Obviously, you can hear he's a highly motivated and highly smart individual. So he's going to be making waves for sure. He already is, and I think you're going to only hear much more from him over the years. Next week will be a good one, gang. If you are excited about winter weather, this is going to be the podcast for you. We will be talking with senior meteorologist at the National Weather Service, Mike Ryan. He comes out with his annual winter weather forecast, and he's very open and honest about how he feels about each year's forecast, and he will kind of dissect what's heading our way, specifically with this being a La Nina, potentially maybe a stronger La Nina year, what that means for us. I've already kind of got a preview of this before I actually sit down and talk to him when they walked the media and some other partners through their fall workshop. So I already kind of an idea of where it's going. I'm not going to spoil anything. I will say this, though. One of the key things, and he will say this again when we interview him, he feels pretty good, very strongly about this season's forecast. It's not always the case. Forecasting is difficult, just even over a few days. And we're going to be trying to do it over a season. So we're looking forward to talking to Mike, and he's going to have his breakdown of the 2020-2021 winter season forecast here for Central Indiana, and that is next week on Weather Weekly. This has been Weather Weekly from Wish TV. I'm meteorologist Marcus Bailey. Be sure to follow and subscribe to the podcast. We greatly appreciate that. And check out new updates every week. You can also get more at our website, wishtv.com, when you follow Wish TV on Facebook and on the All Indiana Podcast Network.
Discover more from Storm Track 8 Weather and Wish TV. Online at wishtv.com and when you follow Wish TV on Facebook. Plus, be sure to check out more great podcasts from the All Indiana Podcast Network now at allindianapodcastnetwork.com.